Okay, welcome to episode 6 of Dystopia Media. We're going to be talking about a very sensitive topic tonight. Is China attacking the United States from within? A lot of people out there are puzzled by America's current policies, leaving the borders wide open, letting all of these illegal immigrants in, including the terrorists amongst them. Don't know if you caught the news today, but our Border Patrol just intercepted two people on the terror watch list. I believe they were from Yemen. And our Department of Homeland Security had a press release up on its website talking about how our good Border Patrol agency had thankfully captured these two potential terrorists coming in across with all the illegals. And all of a sudden, that press release was removed from the DHS website today, as if someone within our own government didn't like it and said, "Hey, that's making Americans too aware of the danger our open border poses. So let's make that go away." Well, what if it wasn't just Joe Biden? What if it just wasn't just the Democrats or these power groups that we've seen inside the United States, like the Council on Foreign Relations and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that were compromised? Maybe it wasn't just these groups that were compromised. Maybe it was something bigger than that. Maybe it was other nations meddling here inside the United States. We've got some growing evidence that China is involved inside the United States and has a great deal of power and influence. And I've recently come across two videos that I want to share with you today, or at least I hope to share with you today. Those familiar with the recent launch of Dystopia Media here know that we do have a high chance of technical difficulties, for which I apologize for in advance. I'm hoping that these will go through. Also, folks, as I talk, I want you to know we love posts and comments. If you can hear us, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or any of Twitter, any place that you listen to us, try to send us a comment. Let us know that you're listening in on this important matter. And also realize that I'm trying to do this both as a video as well as audio content for those out there that might catch just the audio version of episode 6 of Dystopia Media. With that being said, we're going to have to point out that we have to be careful how I talk about this because some of it relates to the Hunter Biden story with the laptop, which is a very sensitive topic. Apparently, you can get kicked off social media very quickly. And as many of you may be already aware of, Silicon Valley tech titans, big censorship groups like Twitter, jumped up and blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story, which, when it jumped up, it could have changed the outcome of the election. But there it was, suddenly gone from Twitter and other places on the web. Amazing, almost like powerful people in powerful places are always looking out for someone else's interest other than the American people, and that's the big problem. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I hope you can see that when you get to the top echelons of both the Democrat and Republican Party and what's happening in D.C., whoever's steering this ship, whoever's driving this train we're stuck on, they don't have our best interest in mind. And what's not happening here in the public, I feel, is that the American public is no longer in control of our national destiny. But let's get down to this. First up on the video, I'm going to be sharing some videos and information with you from a group called the Epic Times, as well as NTD News. And I want you to know a little bit about those. The NTD News is, I had it on screen and I was ready to bring that right over to you. Let me see if I can get over here and find out for you. That is the New Tang group. They're a group of Falun Gong. Let me pull this up for you real quick. Falun Gong, as you know, is a religious sect in China that is heavily persecuted by the Chinese communists. In fact, if you're a member of the Falun Gong, you've got a good chance of being put into a prison where they harvest your organs. Let's talk about civil rights abuses. China makes a lot of money by putting people in jail, including political dissidents, and then harvesting their organs and selling them on the international markets, which is horrible. So let's talk about who NTD News is real quick, because I do want people to support their YouTube channel before we watch this. It stands for New Tang Dynasty Television. And according to Wikipedia, it is a multilingual American television broadcaster founded by adherents of the Falun Gong new religious movement, and they're based in New York City. The station was founded in 2001, originally as a Chinese language broadcast, but since then they've expanded into English settings and whatnot. And I've caught a lot of interesting broadcast, and we're getting a lot of news about China from NTD that you can't get other places. So
in the middle of escalating tension.
So we're going to go, and this is Tiffany Meyer. She's one of the hosts, and under fair use, I am going to be playing parts of this clip and stopping it and discussing it with the listening audience. It's a great clip. If you want to go find the whole thing on at NTD's YouTube channel, they recently, it's titled "Leaked China's Secret Plan to Subvert the United States," and it was posted on April 3rd, 2021. So this is a very new video. And I would encourage everybody to go like, subscribe, do all that type of support there. But let's let Tiffany Meyer here talk for just a little bit. And you folks at home listen to what the message is, because it's related to a speech that was made by a influential Chinese academic for about 4 or 5 years ago, back in 2016, where he was discussing what China is up to here inside of the United States. And but before we go any further, I just want to do a quick caveat here. We have a lot of national stories going on right now about hate crimes against Asians, and we've all seen some videos. I hope you've seen the videos. They're horrible. The little Asian lady that was attacked in New York City, and some of the attacks and have in San Francisco. Anything that we say here about China or people in Asia or whatever is not designed to get anybody hot and angry and go out and do something stupid. If you're one of those people, just tune out right now. This is not for you. This is a conversation that we're having amongst peaceful political people who are concerned about the United States and about undue foreign influence on our elections and businesses. And we need to be able to have that conversation without people getting too angry and hateful and all that stuff. So let's just say it right up front that this broadcast is dedicated to peaceful political conversations. And if you're too hot under the collar, then don't post. Okay, don't post anything stupid on my broadcast, and don't do anything stupid. Most of the people here who are of Asian descent or whatnot are good people and don't deserve a lot of things that we've been seeing happen to them of late on video. But let's tune in here and see what Tiffany Meyer has to tell us, because this video really had a great impact on me today.
In the middle of escalating tensions between China and the U.S., a speech from 5 years ago is going viral. In it, a Chinese Communist Party insider reveals how the regime plans to get the U.S. out of its way so that communism spreads around the world. The plan is detailed and ranges from manipulating U.S. elections to propping up enemies in America's backyard to deep infiltration, all the while in a quiet and covert manner. The bombshell speech is now making a splash online. So far, the original video hasn't been found, but the transcript is circulating widely on the internet. The original speech was given by a famous expert in China named Jing Tianrong. He's known for his expertise on American issues. He also enjoys a high position at one of China's top universities. Multiple China experts say Jing's speech is credible, as his main points line up with the Chinese regime's actions over the past few decades. His comments are particularly valuable because they provide a rare glimpse into the mindset of communist leaders, what they think of the U.S. and their planned moves against it. Jing says the CCP has a 100-year plan, that is, to become the world's leader before 2049. But the United States stands as the biggest obstacle to that goal. Jing says Communist Party head Xi Jinping aims to make sure the regime can become as powerful as the U.S. in this generation.
Now, let me mention something here real quick. We don't know how influential this particular academic is over Xi Jinping or the top of the party, but he's a bigwig. You can check him out online. You can see he's head honcho at one of the major universities in China, and apparently is a pretty, to have that position, is a pretty high-ranking member of the Communist Party.
So that by next generation, it can surpass and take charge of the United States. Jing compares the U.S. to the most valued employee in a workplace, handsome, capable, and in their prime. In that scenario, the Chinese regime had just been promoted to the number 2 position. Jing says the regime wants to squeeze out the U.S. in order to reach the top, but doesn't dare to start a war. So what's there to do? It has come up with other strategies. Jing says one of the main tactics is to become intertwined with the U.S. economy. That means pumping Chinese investment into the U.S. and controlling its market. He says the more intertwined they become, the harder it is for the U.S. to fight back. But for Beijing, Chinese investment in the U.S. also serves another major purpose, influencing the country's political system. Jing says the Chinese regime strives to make sure every congressional district in the U.S. has Chinese investment backing. That way, the regime can directly influence politicians through gaining control over thousands of votes.
Now, listen to what's being said here, folks. Okay, this Chinese academic is advocating or saying that the plan in motion is for China to influence the United States elections, and this is, they're talking about money and investment in certain congressional districts. And in a minute, I'll continue the video and it'll go on further. But, it's very important to me because one of our largest contributors to the illegal immigration waves coming across our southern border is China. So many people from China are coming across the southern border that the emergency stations and the water stations, the emergency phones and things that our government has placed in the desert for illegal migrants or whatever, they have three languages on them: English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese, because that's the main languages coming across our border. Also, I have unverified reports and there are stories that nobody has really pinned down with video. And if anybody's thinking about doing it, well, one of the reasons we probably don't have this verified because it would be a very dangerous job. But there are unverified reports of old junker cruise ships from China, full of people from China, pulling up to Western ports in Mexico, where everybody gets off the old junker boats and nobody gets back on because they are headed north. They are being distributed throughout the United States of America. And again, while some of these folks are great people, I'm sure one of the problems that we have, even with legal immigration from China, that we have to be careful about as a country is that the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, the strong arm of the military industrial complex of China, if you're not in the PLA already before you go to the United States, if they want you to be a spy or a saboteur or to do anything for the PLA, if you have anybody that you care about back in China, they can get you to do whatever they want. Back during 2020, there was some very sensitive viruses that walked out of a Canadian lab, and some Chinese researcher walked those germs out of there and shipped them back to China. And you do what they say. When the PLA tells a Chinese national, whether they're here legally or illegally, that they want you to do something, you do what they say, or you or your family or your loved ones are in danger. That's how China rolls. China doesn't play around. People from China don't have the freedoms we do. They don't have the due process that we do, and they don't expect that type of due process. So when the PLA tells you to do something, you do something. But check this out. They're talking about going after this speech that was given by Xi is going after the United States Congress. Let's continue.
He added that actually the House of Representatives can be controlled and explained some simple math to illustrate his point. The U.S. is home to over 300 million people. In the House, the number of representatives is capped at 435. On average, every congressional district represents about 750,000 people, but only around 30% will vote in elections. So effectively, a little over 200,000 votes decides candidates' fates. Jing says House races are usually quite close. He estimates the gap between each candidate is less than 10,000. In that case, he says if you have thousands of votes on your hands, you are the candidate's dad, meaning to say anyone who controls that number of votes controls the candidates and the election result.
Now, speaking of where you can get votes, most states, although some states are fighting to change that, like in Georgia and other places, while it's a federal offense and a felony for a non-citizen, be they a legal immigrant, guest worker, or an illegal immigrant, it's a felony for them to register to vote and another felony for them to vote, but that is not being enforced. So when someone registers to vote, especially in the blue states like California and Las Vegas, places like Las Vegas, Nevada, there's a little box on the form, okay? And you check the box, are you a U.S. citizen? Ta-da! And after that, nobody checks. Nobody checks on the county level. No one checks on the state level. No one checks on the federal level. Now, occasionally, there are some court cases where people are getting caught illegally, and there's plenty of evidence online showing that we've detected non-citizen voters in over half the states that are participating in a way that suggests a much larger problem. But that's one of the things during the Trump administration never got fixed. And so China, which I think 1 out of every 4 people on the planet lives in, they can continue to pump people into the United States, both legally and illegally, position them in congressional districts. And even if they're not here legally, this 10,000 votes that they want to control in our congressional districts to be able to manipulate Congress, who actually gets elected. They can do that with non-citizens.
He went on to say that if China does a good job, it can buy the United States and turn the U.S. Congress into the Second People's Congress of China. The National People's Congress is China's top legislature. Jing noted that the regime also has other tricks up its sleeve, aside from manipulating elections, like fostering enemies in America's backyard. He says if the U.S. has 4 major enemies, it would struggle and lose its direction, and that the Chinese regime strategy is to make sure that the U.S. has plenty of enemies to keep it occupied. He explained the terrorists are currently one. Russia is very similar to one. But it's not enough. China once wanted to prop up Brazil.
Now, I want to say something about this real quick, okay? If China's looking for enemies or ways to like complicate things for the United States, they can do what the American media is doing now, backing some of these Antifa groups and BLM. We've got the BLM murder wave happening across the country. These court cases, that we're all waiting on for things out of Minneapolis. China can destabilize the United States here by manipulating these things, because apparently there's another video coming up that's going to let you know how far gone things are and what type of resources they may already have here. And in any country outside of the United States that wishes us harm, with our open borders, unsecured borders, and unenforced immigration laws, just like the 9/11 terrorists that walked in here and were able to hit us, just like the illegal immigrant that was one of the DC snipers that went and shot a bunch of our citizens. If there's anybody around the world that wants to be a terrorist that's not already in the United States, they're probably too stupid for us to have to worry about. But, then you've got state sponsors. North Korea says that they've got squads and kill teams here. There are other countries that have people in the United States working jobs, driving to work every day, looking normal, that go home and get some special code, and all of a sudden out comes the hard, they probably got military training. And some people really need to think about, we need to think about a country at what could a couple hundred, what could 50 people do to this country in the middle of the night if they were trained specialists from another country that got the word to hit United States while we were sleeping in the middle of the night. So things to think about as we look at this situation.
Points out that Brazil has the potential but isn't fully up to the task either. That's it for Beijing's plans to subvert the U.S. from within. But Jing says the CCP doesn't stop there, that it has even more ideas to weaken America's power from the outside. For this.
Now, I'm going to, the rest of this video is great, and I want you to go and support the Epic Times and NTD News on YouTube and other places. I will post the links after the broadcast is over. I'm new at this, but I will put the links to this so you can share this with others and move on. There's another person we're about to bring on, though, that we've got a video of here, and let me switch over here to show you who this is. All right, we're going to share the screen, and let's go to screen number 2 here to talk about this gentleman, Dongsheng. He was born in 1976. He's a fairly young guy, and looks like he is a Chinese academic of international relations. He's also a professor and vice dean of the School of International Studies at Renmin University of China. And basically, his research interests include international political economy of money and finance, Chinese economic foreign relations, and the U.S. political economy. Since 1999, he has published a number of scholarly articles in Chinese and English. Now, his public speech, which we're about to discuss, is here in his wiki page, okay? The video that I'm about to play for you, and I'm going to narrate for folks that are listening back home, and I'm also going to, I've watched most 90% of it, and I'm going to try to save you some time. Once again, the link will be there if you want to go back for the full thing. But in a public speech that you're about to see in November 28, 2020, Dongsheng told a live audience in a boastful tone about China's influence in America's, quote, core inner circle of power. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to see if I can highlight that. America's, quote, core inner circle of power, especially in relationship to the upcoming administration of President-elect Joe Biden, who I refer to in a non-affection term of Beijing Biden. And if you don't call him Beijing Biden, maybe you can start. Maybe we should all call him Beijing Biden. Saying, quote, Biden is back. Our old game is back. Dai, who was speaking at an event hosted by the Chinese nationalistic website Guan Video, bragged about Beijing's sway over Wall Street and Biden's son Hunter, whose business dealings in China recently came under scrutiny. Now, I've got the video queued up here, and we're going to see if we can add it to the
就
stream.
是你承诺过开
And I apologize to everybody, but you will be able to see this with the translations below on your screen if you have one. But I'm going to read you a little bit about what this guy's saying. Okay, here we go.
放是吧？你要兑现，要不然凭什么
Otherwise,
人家的门向你开放
Why would the
啊
people's
开放
doors be open to you? The openness
那么
is
以前
mutual.
呢，
So before we couple with
这
each
个
other, United
我
States
们
and
是
China,
以那样种
that's the way that
那样种
I
方式
talked
打
about
勾
it.
但是呢，现
But
在
now
人家
people want to
想象
decouple
都
from
有
us.
脱钩啊，所以呢，
So my
我
understanding,
跟
and
你
of
讲
course it's
但
my
是我个
personal
人觉得为
interpretation,
什么在现在这个时候
that
还
we
是
are
说
starting to
中国
accelerate
20年前的头发
something we promised
第二个
20 years ago.
当前中国政府力推
The
进
current push by the
在
Chinese
实际上
government in
可
terms of
能
timing,
在
and
前
I
面
must emphasize again that this is my
可
personal
能跟这个
speculation,
政治和战
considerations,
术考量有关系。
may have something to do
因
with
为我们知道
politics. But why?
前边特
The
朗普
Trump
政府
administration is in a trade war with
大外
us.
那么
So
我
why
们
can't we
所
fix the
考
Trump
虑的
administration?
啊，为什么以
Why
前
between 1992
92
and
到
2016
2016年之间
did
中
China
国
and the
之间
U.S.
我们
used to
不
be
到
able to
一
settle
你
all
看
kinds of
大概
issues,
所
no
有
matter
的
what kind of
这些
crisis,
号事
what
件
type
和
of incident, the
大的
bombing of
上
an
上
embassy,
攻击
the
所有
crashing of a
事情
plane, things
全
were
部是
solved in no
通过
time,
两个
like
政
a
治
couple.
原
We
因
fixed everything in 2
这个原
months.
因
What
这
was
儿
the
我
reason?
抛出一个
I'm going to
无
throw
谓
out
的报
something
告
maybe a bit
就
explosive
是
here.
因为
It's
咱们
just
上
because
一
we have
届
people at the top,
啊，就是我们在美国
at
的
the top
选
of
举
America's
和
core
当
inner
然
circle of power and
我
influence.
们有我们的
We have
对
our
朋友
old friends.
时间关系我这都不
As we
多
don't
讲
have
大
much
家看
time, so I won't go into
张
details
市
here.
长的
Mayor Zhang just told some stories. It worked very well.
是吧？所以我也讲个故事。
So I'll also tell a story.
那么
Now I'm going to pause it here. And he tells a story about how President Xi is coming to speak in America. And they wanted to warm up the playing field for him, get more people talking about Xi, knowing about Xi. And so they were going to do they were going to put out a book about President Xi in English. And they had a venue in Washington, D.C. that this group that he participates with wanted to have it at. And when he called up the American owner of the venue, which he continually refers to as being insolent and arrogant, how the uppity American told him that they couldn't do their show there for the book, the Pro Xi book, because the venue was already booked by someone else. And so he brags about how he would like to throw some money at it because that's what he does. Ha ha ha. And the crowd laughed. Apparently, this guy buys off Americans all the time. And he wanted to know who else was in the venue so they could try to like throw more money and get the venue on the date and time they wanted for their pro-China presidency, whatever. And he tells a story. And again, I will post the links in the descriptions here once the podcast is over, so you can go and watch the whole thing. And I encourage you to do that. But he says that they couldn't get the venue. What do you know? So he had to pass it back up his chain of command. And then a couple days later, voila, they've got the venue they wanted. They got the venue that the arrogant American owner, which he mentions was a Democrat, refused to give them. And I'm going to take you to something here because this just blew my mind. And I want to make it very clear that the language I'm about to repeat off of this video is the language of Dongsheng in his video, which is available on YouTube. That's DI space DONG SHENG. You can go look it up yourself because one of the things that apparently he's able to say in this video that gets left out by YouTube is something that would get me struck down by the Silicon Valley demigods. So making it very clear, these will be his words that I'm reading for the listening audience. Oh, but look, check it out why they selected him to do this event. Listen to what he says. He said, who should do it? Who should do this project, special project? Just like today, they found out. They said to me, Dai Xiangjin, you have a way with foreigners and are better at fooling them, right? Because they had seen how I fooled foreigners and they thought I was very good. So they picked him to be the host and speaker and to set up this event because he's so good at fooling foreigners. And of course, in this context of his speech from November of 2020, you and I, Americans, we are the audience. But anyway, he gets his venue and he says something special about this lady who helped him do it after he tried to throw a stack of dollars at it. He gets his venue. Here we go. And let me tell you what, there we go. Apparently in China, if you're, in with the party like this guy, you can talk about people like you want. But He said, after lunch, he rushed to the bookstore only to find the leadership was there earlier than I expected. And the reason why we were able to follow through our original plan to execute it smoothly is because of this outstanding person. He introduced an old lady to me. She has a big nose. I could tell you, now this translation, there's different translations, it says, I could tell that she is Jewish by the first glimpse. She handed me the business card saying her name is so-and-so. And then he says he won't tell the lady's name. But, he's talking about this Jewish woman inside the Democratic Party who got the Chinese the venue they wanted and gave somebody else the boot. So that is really, really interesting. I'm going to play just a little bit more of this if I can find it. But basically what the point of the speech is that he is acknowledging that Chinese have resources in high places here inside the United States, and that power structure is under their influence. And it's not just the politicians, it's businesses. And we know what type of impact China's having on Hollywood. If you haven't heard about it, China owns hundreds and hundreds of theaters here in the United States. Chinese censors have set in on the actual production of U.S. movies like Iron Man 3. So we got Chinese censors, doing that. It probably explains why all the different movies have Westerners, especially Western Caucasian males looking like the bad guys, especially blonde people in all these different movies and stuff. China has got its tentacles into our country, I believe, in a lot of different ways. There was one other video that I wanted to get for you that was at the end of the Hunter Biden sex tape that was leaked from a Chinese website just before the election. And at the end of the Hunter Biden tape, there was a man who was speaking. And if anybody out there listening, I know there's some folks listening right now to this podcast that have a good research skills, good search engine, online skills, or you might just remember this video if you saw it. And I will add it to a later podcast if we can locate it. It was a man warning people in the United States that the reason things are getting so bad here is because so many people in positions of power have already been compromised by the Chinese Communists or the CCP, because that's where all the money's coming from in America today. And that things will continue to get worse, and much more horrific things will happen to us as time progresses, as China pursues its plan of taking over the whole planet by 2049. I guess the 100 year of their communist revolution, which I think started in China in 1949. So I want to get this stuff out there for everybody to be thinking about and looking at. And if anybody can help me find that video, I looked for it for like 2 hours today to try to find you the impassioned plea that was in this speech at the end of the released Hunter Biden video from a couple months ago, but I could not locate it. So here at Dystopia Media, this is just some ideas that I think people should start working about and looking at some things called third generation and fourth generation warfare. I might want to put some of that on screen real quick. Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick, just so you understand what I'm talking about. One of the things China has not wanted to do before now is to have a actual military conflict with the United States, which is protected by our nuclear shield and our before this point, our superior technology. But fourth generation warfare is characterized by the blurring of the lines between war and politics, combatants and civilians. The term was first used in the 1980s by a team of United States analysts, including paleoconservative William S. Lind, to describe warfare's return to a decentralized form. In terms of generational modern warfare, the fourth generation signifies the nation state's loss of their near monopoly on combat forces, returning to modes of conflict common in pre-modern times. But nations and civilizations have been messing with each other for a long time, folks. This is nothing new, okay? Agent provocateurs, assassins, and saboteurs and influencers have all been sent in. It's an old ancient game that for somehow or another American citizens or America seems to have somehow forgotten, and we're doing so many things that are negative for our national security that I think we need more people thinking on these terms and doing this type of thing and spreading this type of information with others, because I refuse to believe that our grandparents and great grandparents generation who fought in World War II would have let this happen to us. When our ancestors came back from being victorious in World War II, And could we even withstand a war with China? If we had a full war with China, I got a feeling we'd find out we couldn't make half our tanks and planes and helicopters. And what we could make, we'd probably find, you know, foreign Trojans and viruses and backdoors planted in a lot of it. I think we've already found a lot of that. And could you really picture the younger fighting age group of Americans between 18 and 36 years old? Can you see them dive bombing an enemy aircraft carrier like in Midway? Can you see them doing these type of things on any type of like sustaining thing? And even if we did have another world war and we could make the tanks and the weapons that we could, what about the nuclear family? Could men and women go off to war and still have a family or something to fight for when they get back? You know, we've got a lot of serious problems in this country, folks, and we've got to start thinking about all of these things, including the suicide rate amongst our veterans and other things, as national security issues. So I'm going to go ahead. I've gone on a little bit longer than I have. Usually I appreciate the positive comments coming in. If anybody sees us on YouTube, please make some comments under the YouTube version of this video because we need some more support there. We need you to please join our Facebook Dystopia Media page. Just search on Dystopia Media on Facebook. Go over to YouTube, search for Dystopia Media, look for the dog staring at the bomb bunker, and subscribe. Make some comments under this video and others. Share this video by email and on social media. Look for us on BitChute. Look for us on minds.com. Oh, yeah, and we have started a Subscribe Star channel. I don't have the little graphic to put it up yet. Next episode 7, I will have the graphic that shows our Subscribe Star. So this is episode 6 of Dystopia Media coming to a close. I appreciate your time and attention to these important matters. We'll see you soon for episode 7.